We have another video for you to debunk.
Who is it this time? Is it Jim Bakker, Steve Wahlberg, Pat Robertson? Who?
Someone far more dangerous. He's onto our plans regarding Christmas. He must not be allowed to expose our lies. We've worked too hard. We have spent thousands of years convincing people to worship ivy, holly, evergreens, and Santa Claus.
To what end, my liege?
Never you mind to what end.
He's questioning our authority, infidel.
No. I'm sorry. I just thought that an organization called the Illuminati wouldn't mind me asking a couple of questions. That's all.
Make him stop talking. He's not up to the task at hand.
We need to take counsel.
Shall I leave?
No, just turn your back.
And stick your fingers in your ears so you don't hear us.
Okay.
Look, we don't want people to learn the truth about Christmas.
And the Easter Bunny.
Yes, and the Easter Bunny.
He's asking too many questions. He doesn't even know why we are tricking people into decorating trees, having them give presents to each other. Fool.
Why are we tricking people to decorate trees and give presents to each other?
Why? You have to ask why?
Yes. Why?
What about adding chocolate bunnies to the Christmas celebration?
We're not adding Easter bunnies to Christmas. Now shut up, Lilokin. Lilokin.
Yes, I am sorry, my liege. I will not ask any more questions.
Just debunk this video. He's exposing us and giving away our great secret plans.
Plans? Plans for what? Oh, I'm sorry, that was a question.
He's asking questions again.
Damn it.
Have him buy chocolate Easter eggs to give us as punishment.
Shut up about Easter. Your time is coming, Lilokin. Just debunk this video as instructed by the Grand Council.
Yes, my liege. I will not fail you. But what purpose does all this serve? Why try to trick people into decorating a tree and buying presents for people? I don't quite understand.
Oh, shut up. Grand Council, out.
Now, part of the practice of Christmas is hanging it, well, I should say, first of all, is the Yule log fire. Now this, the log inside of it is referred to as the Yule log. Now it's not called Yule for no reason at all. Remember, this is December 21st, the human night sacrifice of Yule.
So it's a human night sacrifice. What exactly are you basing this on? There is no historical records of human sacrifice on Yule that I'm aware of.
Now tradition teaches us in the occult, no longer me because I'm a born-again Christian, God be praised.
If you were really a follower of the occult, you would know that there is a difference between the people who are occultists and who study the occult and people who follow various pre-Christian traditions who sometimes refer to themselves as pagans. You would also know that there are some occultists who do follow pre-Christian traditions of paganism, and then there are some occultists who don't follow any pre-Christian traditions known to us as paganism.
But tradition in the occult teaches that once it has been lit and used for the holidays, you're supposed to keep one part of the birch log or the Yule log and set it aside for next year. Why you do this is because you're supposed to take that piece of the Yule log from last year and light this year's Yule log. This way, it's a constant cycle.
Symbolically, I kind of like that idea of burning a log using the flame of a previous log from the last year. I like that symbolism. I don't know how accurate it is in the Yule tradition, but I do like that symbolism.
You take from the old, give to the new keeps kindling itself over and over again. This, symbolically speaking, is the cycle of reincarnation, because every year you welcome back into your home by lighting the Yule log, the god of the winter known as the stag god, or originally known as Nimrod.
No! Nimrod is a Middle Eastern deity. The stag god, what we refer to as the stag god, is usually called Kurnanos, which means the horned one, and that is from Central Europe, from the Indo-European cultures. There's the Indo-European culture, and then there's the ancient Middle Eastern culture. Both of these cultures are separated by thousands and thousands of miles, a huge mountain range, and a language and writing system that completely developed independent of each other. A lot of the stories from the Bible are based upon the pre-Christian cultures around the area of Babylon, Mesopotamia, a lot of those areas where the Bible came from. The Yule tradition is from Northern Europe, from the Germanic tribes, and Kurnanos, the horned god, is from the Indo-European culture. I'm sure there is possibly some influence going farther back into history between the Indo-European, Central European cultures and the Northern European cultures, because there's a lot of similarities between their deities and some of the Celtic deities. So I'm sure that there is some similarities between Kurnanos and other deities in the north.
Kissing underneath the mistletoe. Well, there's a couple things wrong with this, first of all. One thing I will warn you about, people, whatever you do, never touch those berries. 3 of them could kill you. This plant is so poisonous.
The berries of mistletoe, from European mistletoe, there's different types of mistletoe, so people kind of often get them confused. But real mistletoe, the kind that grows in Europe, that grows off of the oak tree, those berries are indeed very poisonous. You wouldn't want to touch them and then maybe touch your mouth, because then you might ingest it. But you can touch mistletoe, and that's not a problem. It's not deadly poisonous, that's why we sell it. But if you do eat the berries, yes, the berries are poisonous, and you don't want to get those, you don't want to ingest those.
Mistletoe itself was very sacred to the Druids. It was a fertility plant. This was a very sacred plant to the Druids, from which the Illuminati claimed direct descendancy from. They claim to be the modern day Druids, or the modern day rendition of the Druids.
Where'd the Illuminati come from? What are you talking about, the Illuminati and the Druids? Oh, you people and your conspiracy theories. The Illuminati now has become this mysterious cabal that everybody talks about, that anybody who puts up a triangle they believe is associated with the Illuminati. What would be the goal of the Illuminati if they do exist? Let's just say that they do exist. What would be the purpose of having people go around showing triangles, or to have TV commercials with triangles in them, or put the sign of the eye on the dollar, which actually goes way back to Egypt and actually represents the eye of God? But regardless, even if let's just take all these things for granted. Let's say the Illuminati is behind them. So what? What are they accomplishing? They're not accomplishing anything. They're wasting their time, they're wasting their resources, they're wasting their money to get these actors to do this, to put this symbol on all these products throughout the entire world. It's a big marketing waste of time. Nike has a much better campaign than the Illuminati.
We have another fertility plant known as the wreath. we make a Christmas wreath. It's green and red, and you will constantly find green and red throughout the Christmas season, because in the occult world, those are the two colors that are used for this season.
What? No. Red and green are associated with Christmas because of ivy. Ivy has that very rich green and the bright red berries. And this color scheme from ivy, which is part of the Christmas and the Yule celebration this time of year, became the Christmas colors. Coca-Cola made Santa Claus's or Saint Nicholas's outfit red to match their Coca-Cola colors. So red and green have been associated with Christmas because of ivy, because of the color of St. Nicholas's outfit, and the greenery which is taken indoors, the green of the pine tree, the green of the wreath, the green of ivy.
And for every season, they do have specific colors that's used for their occult magic and occult belief system. Now, the wreath itself is always circular if they're an occult practitioner, and there will always be candles in the center of it. The reason this is so, as I said before, this is another fertility symbol. The candle or candles represent the male phallic symbol.
Yeah, I guess you could say it does look like the male sex organ, but you could also just say it's a wise design for a candle to make a candle last a long time.
The circle represents the female reproductive organs.
I don't want to deny the association that a lot of people have with the circle being associated with the womb, or even with life itself, the generative powers. However, I don't think that every single design that holds a circle is supposed to represent the female sex organs. Depending upon the context, yes, it could, but not every single circle represents the female reproductive organs.
This is why it is, symbolically speaking, a fertility symbol. And this is something, symbolically speaking, we have a circle here, made out of the wreaths, that represents reincarnation. In other words, the life, the birth, and the death of the stag god every single year.
You see, I think I'm getting a little bit of insight into how conspiracy nuts latch on to conspiracy theories and see them everywhere. Because you are seeing this symbolism everywhere. Not everything that is designed looking like a long cylinder object is a male sex organ unless you think it is. Not every single circle that we encounter throughout our entire lives are representing female reproductive organs unless you perceive it that way. So you are perceiving all of these symbols around you and associating them with the Illuminati or whatever it is that you associate them with. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what those things are. It could just be a candle. It could just be a circle. Sometimes, like Freud said, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
This symbol originated from the great obelisk in Egypt. Now here is a picture of the Vatican City. You'll notice dead center is the obelisk. This obelisk here, at the very top of it, in that bowl supposedly resides the charred remains, the cremated ashes of Julius Caesar. But notice dead center is the to the side is the Christmas tree. Now, the obelisk itself, and let me explain this to you. Notice how the obelisk is here and there's a circle around it. This is a very ancient, occult, pagan symbol of fertility.
So let me see if I understand this correct. Anytime In every single piece of artwork, in every single picture of architecture, everywhere, if there's a long shaft and a round circle, it's a symbol of fertility. Okay, I think I understand where you're coming from.
Now, you will notice that there are sets of lines, two here, and all the way around. Now, the reason the obelisk was designed in such a fashion was because it's really, in actuality, a giant heliocentric sundial.
Every object that is designed to either be a sundial or a calendar does not necessarily mean that it is associated with any kind of ancient pagan fertility symbol. It could just have been a design to actually be a calendar system or to mark when the sun is at its longest point or at its shortest point. Or it could be designed to also mark when is noon and when is sunset and sunrise. Not everything is a pagan fertility symbol.
The shadow of this obelisk, and all obelisks, wherever they are throughout the world, is going to fall in a certain place depending on the position of the sun. Now, if the obelisk shadow falls within any of these two lines, it is another night of human sacrifice.
Okay, let me see if I understand this correctly. Okay, when the shadow of this obelisk falls within these two lines that you're showing in the Vatican, they perform a human sacrifice. Are they still performing human sacrifices? If I go and visit Rome and it happens to fall with that time when I'm there in between those lines, does that mean I'm going to get sacrificed? Where are you getting this information from?
This one was made here in Washington, D.C. This is, of course, the Washington Monument, 555 feet above ground, 111 feet below ground, making for the total height of this occult pagan symbol 666 feet exactly.
I don't know what makes an obelisk a pagan symbol. But anyhow, the Washington Monument is 555 feet high from the ground all the way to the top. The foundation only goes 56.5 feet down. It does not total 666 feet.
And if you notice, like the other ones, here we have the male phallic symbol, and there is a circle all the way around it, which represents the female reproductive organ.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you haven't exactly had a date in quite some time, right? Is that why you're seeing penises and vaginas everywhere?
This is nothing but the ancient occult fertility symbol of Semiramis and Nimrod, just brought to the modern day through the organization of the Illuminati. There is, from the old country, the person known as the Holly King. From the Holly King, you get who's known as Santa Claus.
No, not exactly. This Santa Claus could be loosely based on the Holly King, but really the iconic imagery, again, of Santa Claus is really created by the Coca-Cola Company. If anything, he was sort of based upon Krampus and St. Nicholas. Possibly the Holly King did have some kind of an influence, but the more we dissect all the symbolism, especially in American Christmas, we see elements of all these various cultures. And it kind of makes sense because America is such a melting pot of all these different traditions and all these different cultures that came over here in various waves. So it's very easy to see how we just kind of incorporated all these things and made our own holiday, which essentially Christmas is.
Now, Santa Claus is an interesting study because, you know, through Santa Claus, the Illuminati has tried to prove that they are like gods on the earth.
Okay. All right. Oh man, I can't do this. Okay. Okay, let me see here. Okay, so the Illuminati created Santa Claus to somehow prove to the American public that the Illuminati are actually God, and God is not God, because Santa Claus has certain powers that God's supposed to have, and somehow this is supposed to make the Illuminati. How are you connecting all of these things? This doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Through the myth. Now, when we go through the story of Santa Claus, Santa Claus is actually supposed to be all-knowing. I mean, think about this. Doesn't Santa Claus know who's been good and who's been nice every single day of the year? That's one of Santa Claus's ability. He knows exactly who's been good and who's been nice, and he knows how this has worked for each individual throughout the year. Has the ability of being omnipresent, or just about, because on the night of Christmas, is he not able to traverse the entire world and literally just about be everywhere at the same time and drop off who knows how many billions of presents?
You figured it out. You're a genius. You are a genius. Santa Claus, and God are the same person. You never see Santa Claus and God in the same room together. Santa Claus lives in the North Pole. God lives up in heaven. Santa Claus knows who's been good and should be rewarded and go to heaven. He knows who's been naughty, who's been bad, and should go to hell. God and Santa Claus are one and the same. You, sir, are a genius. Pure genius.
Well, at least that's what the story tells us. His sleigh, if you notice, is pulled by 8 reindeers. Now, these are commonly known as stags. This is why, if you notice very quickly, people, Santa Claus is just another representation of the stag god. And it's for 8 reindeers.
And he actually has 9. Everybody seems to forget about Rudolph. Rudolph had the nose so bright. Wouldn't you drive my sleigh tonight? Rudolph was the 9th reindeer. He's the main one who gets all the presents going to where they need to go. He's driving the whole thing. Those other 8 stags, they're just following his lead.
8 for no reason at all. You see, 8 is the only number that if you put it on its side, becomes an occult symbol, which is the number for infinity.
Wait, hold on a second. I think I'm really starting to follow your logic, because if you draw Santa Claus and you just look at the top of his red suit, it creates the Illuminati triangle. The Christmas tree, it's a triangle.
Or the act of reincarnation throughout the year, in this case, Santa Claus. Now, here we have one of the ancient depictions of the stag god. It's one of the few bronze reliefs that we still have. You notice he has the horns as a stag, and he has this bracelet here.
He's not holding up a bracelet. He's holding a torque, the same thing which is around his neck. It is called a torque.
And other things that denote him as the stag god. Santa's little helpers, and this is what really kills me, rather than own up to the truth, what we've done here in America, well, we've given them a cute little look, Well, these are just little helpers dressed in green and red, and they help Santa throughout the year.
Okay. All right. So, elves. Those cute little elves that go around building Santa's toys are actually little demonic spirits. Okay, all right. So far I'm following you.
Making toys and whatnot. But you see, the traditions of most of America, of most of the holidays, come from Europe. And the true elves of Christmas were very horrible, evil little creatures. They went around and caused mischief for everyone or anyone who came across them. And the problem is, these elves have now, ever since the 40s and up to this day, because of J.R.R. Tolkien, have now become tall, slender, beautiful-looking beings with great power and all this. They've been transformed as a result of that. But the truth of the matter is, the ancient traditions and pictures do not lie. They point out to us that the traditional elves were nothing but small, demonic, imp-like creatures who caused anyone trouble who came across their paths.
Yeah, but they were reduced to that because of the Christian tradition. Before that, they were considered to be ancient deities from a time long ago, or ancient ancestors. When Christianity came over, those same ancient deities and those ancient beings became demonic little evil elf creatures.
Elves, only became,
I'm pretty sure that's a rock.
cutesy once we decided to try to dress up the occult practice of Yule and call it Christmas and make it something palatable. Stockings have, according to the ancient practices, is where presents were left, not for the person to get, but they were supposed to leave presents there for the Yule god, for the stag god to take.
So before we had dryers, and people were tramping around in the snow in their shoes and their thick socks, and they came into the house and they took their shoes off and they hung their socks near the fire to dry them out. You don't think this is probably where the idea or the concept of having stockings hung on a mantle near a fire came from?
But we've reversed it, and supposedly now those are there for our benefits. People put small gifts and items in them, and if Santa Claus determines you're bad, you get, charcoal put in them instead. But the question that we need to ask is this the birthday of Christ? Was Christ born on December 25th?
Me personally, I don't think he ever existed, so you could place his birth at any time you want. He's a mythological character. So you could put his birthday in April, you could put it in December, you could put it in February, you could put it anywhere that you want. If you're trying to give some kind of historical credence to this person, then yes, April probably would be the most likely time of his birth, according to historians who still do not have any conclusive evidence that this figure actually existed. There are strong theories, but there's no conclusive evidence.
And if not, whose birthday is it? There was, historically speaking, we can prove this, a taxation from Caesar Augustus. Now, according to the ancient records, this taxation happened during the month of September. I have spoken to many Jewish friends of mine and to rabbis I've known about this passage.
Why would your Jewish friends know when the Roman taxation happened from 2,000 years ago? What information would they be privy to that other historians and scholars and archaeologists aren't privy to?
My friends who have lived on kibbutzes have told me that the sheep that shepherds watch over in the fields around that part of Judea and such, the sheep are never brought out of the field until the end of September, and they say usually no later than the second week of October, because it gets too cold out there for the sheep to survive it. So it's around that time of the year that they will bring the sheep in. And the rabbis have told me a similar story. They all say right around that same time. So we know that that's when the timing of the shepherds had to have been, right around that time.
Yeah, you're probably right that the sheep were brought in, especially at nighttime when it got really cold. But even in the winter time, the sheep have to eat. And chances are they're going to eat whatever is growing around whatever it is that is growing. At nighttime, yes, they were probably brought in, but the sheep still have to eat even though it's winter time.
Guess what? They did not find him in the manger. You know, according to ridiculous traditional beliefs, Christ was visited by everyone in the manger. Now this, a friend of mine took this photo for me, Lynn Shaleski. This is quite a manger scene. Camels, we have a donkey, and a couple of sheep. And most of those people weren't there.
Oh man, this has been a source of entertainment for me. So, of all the things in the story of Jesus' miraculous birth, born to a virgin, all of the stories in the Bible of all the things that he does, he raises people from the dead, he cures people of disease, he does all of these things, he's killed, he dies on a cross, he's buried in a tomb, he rises up, walks around dead, he was seen dead, and he walks around, he talks to people, and then he ascends to heaven. And the thing that you're focused on is the fact that there's a donkey and a camel and all these people in a manger around his birth. This is the part you have a hard time with, not his virgin birth, his resurrection, all of these things that are associated with Jesus in the story. No, the thing that bothers you the most and you find the most ridiculous is the scene in the manger. Okay.
You see, they never made it to the manger. They never did. You see, this is 2 years later after Christ was born. Go into the Bible, it makes it very, very clear that first of all, these wise men, when Christ was being born, they saw the great star of the east. They weren't there in Judea when they saw it. These people are up from the far east. They had to literally cross from one end of the continent all the way across and then down into the land of Judea to where they could finally make it. And this took approximately 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, because they didn't have automobiles or planes or trains. They took camels and make that 2-year crossing with a huge army by their side so that they would be protected. Now, Herod was so upset that he could not find out from the wise men where the baby Jesus was because he didn't want to worship him. He wanted to murder him. So, once the wise men had told him what had happened, he knew that Christ was 2 years old at this point, which is why he told his soldiers to go out into Jerusalem and kill all the 2-year-old male children. From 2 and under, they were all supposed to be butchered. That's why it was 2 years old, because of the timing. This is what was going on.
This is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much, and blessed be.